Alright guys, so in the last video I promised I was going to show you how to do the AC. We're not going to do this 100% the right way, but this will get it going. If you have a car where you've replaced all the components and you have all new AC stuff in there, everything's fixed, this is the way you're going to do it to recharge it. Now, this car has just been taken apart and put back together. Everything on it was fine when I took it apart, so we're just recharging the system so I can drive it around. It's getting hot in Florida. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's supposed to be getting cold in Florida, but I want to drive it to work this week and the highs are still going to be in the 80s, so let's go ahead and recharge it just in case. So I've got some refrigerant, R134A, which is what this car uses, and I believe most cars still use, unless they've come out with something new. Anyways, R134A, rechargeable canister thingy, and I've got a setup here, and I'm going to show you the setup so you understand what I'm doing first, because before you just add refrigerant to the system, you want to vacuum it out, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to suck all the air out of the system, make sure it's completely in vacuum and that it's going to hold a vacuum hopefully, and then we're going to recharge it and get going. So real quick, I'm going to grab the camera and show you what I've got hooked up here and explain. All right, so we'll start up top here. We have a gauge system, which this one came from Harbor Freight. You can see that Pittsburgh logo, nothing high tech, pretty cheap, but should work fine. Down here, we've got a vacuum pump, also from Harbor Freight. So first thing you want to do is set this gauge up, and we're going to hook it up to the lines in the car, which in the Evo are down here. Now, conveniently, you got a high and a low side, and the tubing's usually a different diameter. But what you'll also notice, like this is the low side and the tubing's real big, and on the high side it's real small. In this case, the car has a H for high on the cap and an L for low. So we're gonna match up the gauge to those. These are quick releases in this case, so we just kind of snap them on. Make sure it locks in. Okay. So we've got our lines on. Then we got the line, like I said, going down to the vacuum pump. So we're gonna go ahead and close these. What you wanna do is you're only gonna open, you can see on the gauge, it kind of tells you the high side only goes positive, but the low side has a negative vacuum gauge on it too. So we're gonna turn this pump on down here, which I have plugged in already. And we're gonna go up here. We're gonna open this sucker up. Okay, there you go. You see it draws some vacuum. We've got it on. Now, we could just leave it like that and close the valve, but you really want to leave it open for a while and let the pump kind of do its job, because you're not just sucking the air out, you're actually sucking the moisture out. So we're going to come back to this in about, I don't know, a couple hours, honestly. You could do it for about a half hour, I think is the minimum I would do it for, but the longer you do it, the better off you're going to be. So we're going to let this run for a while, then we'll come back to it and we'll get into the recharging process. Alright, so now that it's been sitting for a little while, it's been at negative 30 inches of mercury for a couple hours. I'm going to go ahead and turn the pump off, let it sit, see if it holds a vacuum, and then we're going to go to the recharging process. Close this valve. Alright, so I've taken the gauges off, and it sat in vacuum for a while. It didn't seem to lose any pressure from what I can tell. If you have time to do this overnight, that's probably best, but I'm just gonna try and get it running. So everything looks good, held vacuum. We're gonna go ahead and take our recharge canister, which you can buy at any auto parts store, and we're gonna follow the directions on the back. First thing first, my garage door is open, because you're gonna have to run the car. So you wanna make sure you're doing this in a well-ventilated area. So we're gonna go ahead and start the car. Directions on here say to pretty much turn the AC up to full. The reason being is you need the clutch to start turning on as you pressurize the system. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. First, let's go ahead and hook this up to the low side. All right, now let's go start the car and charge it up. So this is going to take a while. There's normally a sticker on the hood that tells you approximately how much refrigerant you need. The sticker on this car says 18 ounces of R134A. The can I have is 17, so we're pretty much going to put the whole thing in it. But what I've noticed is you got to do it slowly, because if you try to put too much in at once, it takes time to recycle the low and the high pressure to even out for it to go ahead and turn the compressor back on. So you'll probably hear it turn on in another moment. I'll go ahead and keep recharging it.
2 hours later.
Well, we're getting closer. It's finally staying on. What I noticed before is that when it would cycle off, it's actually quicker to go back inside and turn the AC on and off. It seems like the ECU wants to keep the AC off. If instead of cycling it, there's just like a long timeout window. So cycling it seemed to get the compressor turned back on quicker so I can fill it up. Now it seems to be staying on. We're going to keep putting it in. We want to at least empty this bottle. That should get us pretty much all the way, and then maybe we'll put a little bit more in from the extra bottle I got, but we only need to put another ounce in, which is very minute, so we might see how it goes first with just this whole bottle. I'm going to go ahead and swap this one out real quick. Get any higher, but it does feel like it's still got something in it. We'll see. Go ahead and go to a new one. We're just going to put a little bit more in. Couldn't get the gauge to go any higher, so I suspect it's because it was pretty much empty. First of all, let's shake it up. It says to shake it up on the label, surprisingly. I didn't think you would want to do that, but you would probably mix the oil. Suck around here. Enough in there. Let's go ahead and check it inside the car, and then we'll turn it off and I'll talk to the camera real quick. Alright, it's probably really loud, but I can tell you I can feel the AC. It feels really good in here. The one thing I miss about having my Evo compared to my Focus was had automatic temperature control on the AC, so pretty much just turn the dial to the temp you want it. It's not fancy, it's not digital or anything, at least not the screen. It's just a dial that goes from, I don't know, 90 to 65. You turn it to where you want it, and the car figures out the rest. Until it's gotten quieter, I set it to 75. So this is going to be great. I'll be able to drive this to work and back, and if it gets a little hot out, it won't be a big deal. I can take my coworkers to lunch if I need to drive, and they won't be miserable. And we've got AC again, so mission accomplished. The camera might be vibrating because the exhaust is so freaking loud. This car is just insane. It's so rowdy. Here, let's turn the AC off for a second. Turn it off. You just give it a little bit of a rev just to see. You hear that rumble? It's way louder outside. I mean, this is just ridiculous. It's probably rattling my neighbor's windows for all I know. I forgot how much I miss this car. It's insane to drive. But you know, it makes me appreciate the Focus more because I've gotten so many more just glaring looks driving this thing around the past couple days, and the Focus is so stealthy with the stock exhaust. This thing is just rowdy and obnoxious, and it's great. But like even today, I'm driving through the parking lot over by my house where there's a Publix, and I'm just driving normally, and there's this little kind of hot boy Kia over there in the parking lot, just sitting in his car parked, and he's just revving because he hears my car, and I'm literally shifting at like 2,000 RPM, and that's enough to like basically trigger other people to try and, you know, show off, I guess. Or in other words, this car is hard to drive around. Everybody wants to race it. It just makes so much noise doing normal things that it attracts so much attention. So we're gonna get some miles on it, but this is definitely not gonna be my daily driver. The Focus is way better at being a daily driver. Gas mileage, quietness, electronics. You know, I kind of miss not having my tunes because I don't have sync or Bluetooth in this car, but I am gonna look into doing that, so that might be a future video, is stereo reinstall. In fact, let me show you what I got. All right, so quick tour of the Evo interior now that I flipped the camera around. As you can see, one of the cool things I do have is JDM double DIN dash unit. So it's not the stereo, but this trim piece here, it came from Japan. So apparently in Japan you get a double DIN radio in these cars. I spent a lot of time trying to find this in the past when I was driving this car daily, so I put this aftermarket Alpine in here, and this thing is great. It works with iPods. The only problem is it works with the old iPods, the ones with the giant connector in the bottom, which I don't own one anymore. So we need to upgrade this, and now I'm thinking something with Apple CarPlay is on the list. Okay, so now moving over to the gauge cluster. Pretty basic here. Hey, by the way, no check engine lights. Just a warning that my hood's open. Got our NGK AFX wideband, which I use to monitor and make sure we're running the right amount of fuel. And then stock gauges. We do have a boost gauge up here, a DeFi electronic boost gauge, and a carbon housing, and that's it. So keeping it simple. That's the tour of the interior. Let's turn this AC back on, get it cool in here as we prepare to drive this car the rest of the week to work and put some miles on it. See what we're at right now. 93,340 miles. And since I have put this engine in, let's see, where are we? We put 165 miles on. So still got a good 840 miles to put on it. Change the oil and then retune this bad boy. Until then, we're going to keep the RPMs low and just enjoy driving it around. So tune back in. Car is fully functional now and ready for some daily driving and break-in miles. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.